Hey, Firecrackers, it's Naomi Sneakus, and welcome to the Firecracker Aftershow. This is one of my favorite things to do. It's when we get some of the core team together and we talk about past episodes. So today we've got Winnie Wong, who's in PR, and she's in Toronto. AJ Edmonds, who's doing the aftershow and content creation. She's in Los Angeles, sometimes Toronto. And Emily Churchill, who's in Los Angeles, and she does content creation and aftershow producing. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Hi.
So we are talking about Caitlin Cronenberg today, who I grabbed for an interview last year, and I've just been a fan of hers for so long. She put this book out called The Endings that was so beautiful and so unique, and it's full of like just heartbreakingly beautiful photography. But she's also photographed people like Drake and Tom Hanks, Margot Robbie. She had a big photo shoot with. So she's like she's a star that is rising, but she also does everything with such heart, grace, and humor. Like she's such a cheeky person too. As soon as I met her, I was like, oh, I like you. You're one of my people. I really like you. So I love talking with her so much. What did you like about my discussion with Caitlin?
Well, I loved the fact that whenever she brought up that, yes, you can teach art, but you can't teach feelings, because that really resonated with me, especially being in the comedy world, and I think drama too. I think, yeah, you can teach someone the 1, 2, 3, but to have that timing, I think, is in our gut, is in our feelings. And so, yeah, I think that's something that you can't teach. And obviously, that's exactly what you were saying about her art, that she brings humor and she brings, feelings to the art, which I think is so important.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I think that we so often don't recognize our feelings so that you can probably train yourself to connect. But, we're adults like living in this world, so you don't want to have your heart in your sleeve constantly. And so a lot of people kind of put it away and then they don't connect. AJ, what resonated for you?
She talked a lot about like never feeling like she's quite made the mark that she was hoping to make. And I think we can all probably identify with that, regardless of what success looks like in our own definition. What is success and how do you know? It was both humbling, devastating, and exciting to hear her talk about how she just felt like she hadn't quite gotten that one thing yet. Even though she had worked with all of these incredible people, she was still looking for something that connected with her, that really made her feel like she launched to wherever she thinks her design is to be. I'll also add, I met one of her assistants last week, and they told me that she's one of the coolest people to work with. You would never know, where she's from, the impact she's had. She's just very humble in the work she does, and it's lovely to hear that there are still artists out there and women that hire other women and really focus on lifting and elevating others.
But just regarding like that never making your mark, don't you think that's an artist's journey? Like, I wonder if we'll ever feel like we've done enough. Do you know? Like, even if you do, like I remember listening to Oprah Winfrey talking about the color purple and saying like that was one of her big things, but she did it like how many years ago? So I'm sure there's another big thing that has come in her vision. Winnie, what do you think about that kind of thing?
Like making your mark as an artist. Yeah, I mean, it almost not broke my heart, but like, how your heart beats faster because you really feel what she's saying when she said she wanted to quit and she wanted to have a sign. And I was like, Caitlin, you've got like the most amazing swagger ever.
I know, she's got swagger.
She's got so much swagger, and obviously I'm a fan too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I think like it's happened a lot in my life where you're just like, oh, what's the next step? Where do I go? And as an artist, I guess all of us are thinking, hey, what can I do next? And,
Yeah. Like what's going to be I mean, it's sort of like we're junkies for it too, right? Like, cause you're sort of like the kick that you get when you're creating and when you know something is important and purposeful. Once you're done, you're like, I want to do that again. I don't ever want to go back and do non-purposeful work. And I look at Caitlin's work. If you haven't had a chance, go to her Instagram, Kate Cronenberg, Cait. It's just full of like heartful pictures. Heartful? Is that a thing? I think so. Full of heart. They're so beautiful. Yeah. What else stood out for you in my discussion with her?
Well, I think kind of on the same lines as what we're talking about, but when she was talking about, I think it was the Drake photo shoot, and how she was like, oh, this is going to launch, right? This is going to launch my career. And she felt that it didn't, right? And I feel like
Meanwhile,
being an artist, we feel like, oh, this might be it. But I feel like once you've been in it for a while, you're like, oh, this is great. I don't know if it's going to launch me, but but that feeling that someone else had that same feeling of like, oh, this is it, and then it doesn't in the way you think it is. It was just humbling to hear that, oh, other people go through this too. Okay. I'm okay.
Yeah. AJ.
And also that, I think it was also like Alana Harkin said this, and a lot of the women you talk to reference this like, okay, well, now I've done it. What's next? Like, so you've reached something that to everybody, even yourself, you have that moment of being like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. And then it's over and you go, well, what do I set another goal? Like, okay, I've done it. So where do I go next?
And that's partly like society, right? Because they'll say, that was amazing. What's next? And then the pressure of like, well, wasn't that enough? That took like all my heart and soul.
It's almost like when you put that pressure on yourself to say, okay, what's next? You don't stop and smell the roses with what you've just accomplished, where you're like, oh, wow, I actually did this. Or, my friend actually, like, how like you want to celebrate that, but then there's a pressure saying, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I feel like, I don't know, sometimes I feel that.
Yeah. It's funny because Caitlin and I are talking about being such avid list makers. Like her office was just surrounded. It was sort of one of those places as like a listy person. It was like, oh, this is fun. Like she had all these Post-its and whiteboards, and but you do feel a sense of like remember the days when we first started our careers and you'd get like a little victory and you'd be like, oh, I got that victory, and you'd celebrate. You'd pop champagne. Like we used to have champagne in the freezer, like a little bottle, not in the freezer, in the fridge, all the time, just for the celebrations that we knew were coming. And now we sort of go, oh, great, like done. It's almost like we don't even recognize that we're moving forward, It's sort of old hat or something. What else?
Oh, gosh.
I think that old hat sentiment's really funny because it's so depends on where you're standing in your journey. Because I think we come across, like, at least I come across people that are, perhaps apathy is the wrong word, but that have just done it so much that it's not as exciting anymore. You see it a lot in people that have been in the limelight for a while, right? Like their spark just seems to be, they're suffocating a little, and they're like, yeah, I mean, I've done it. I can, I do it every day, whatever. And then there's so many of us that are like, I would give anything to do what you're doing every day.
Yeah.
And it's one of those lessons of like growing up where you have to recognize, what journey you're on and how to not compare yourself against other people as well.
Oh, good one. That's tough. That's real tough.
Yeah, that's really tough, especially with social media. That is my hardest.
Yeah.
Seeing everybody on set, and you're like, oh, I'm not there today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything's perfect on social media, right? Somebody said to me, oh, you're so busy. I'm like, yeah, because Facebook never lies. Right?
Yeah.
And busy doesn't mean successful. It just means that we're generating. Like there is an element for me that I'm, I like working. And Caitlin and I talked about this. Like we love working. She had like the worst cold the day that I talked to her. You can hear it, and she every once in a while we had to edit it out, but she had to blow her nose and stuff. But then she was on a plane either that afternoon or the next morning to go and shoot Margot Robbie in Los Angeles. Like she's working, and we're all sort of wanting to create.
That was her big thing, and it happened, and it didn't fall through, and the location was there, and Margot Robbie showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay! It all came through.
Yeah, it did come through. And if you look at those photos, they're gorgeous. I mean, Margot Robbie's gorgeous anyway, but I think just Caitlin adds such a level of heart to everything that she does, and humor. Like I don't know, there's just an element that is really energetic from her photos.
I really do believe, and this might sit on the sexist end of things, but of all the photographers I've worked with in my life, the people that capture me the best are women.
Oh, interesting.
And there's just, I really believe something about, we have this internal empathy about sensitivity to other people and angles and how to capture someone's levels of variation. And I just think like there's so many great photographers out in the world, but the people that have really stood out to me are like Caitlin Cronenberg, Lauren Vanderbroek, like these women who just capture things. And it's not about the settings on your camera or the lighting or how many assistants you have. Because I do think she mentioned like she couldn't tell you an f-stop or a light level if she's never going to answer that question. But, she knows how to light someone.
Yeah, and Helen Tansey is another one. Helen Tansey just came out with this beautiful book. I do know that women on set are imperative because they know when that hair is weird or like I remember doing a photo shoot for Second City, and at the end of the photo shoot, the pictures were like twice the size of my face, and I had food in my teeth.
Oh.
And nobody caught it, so there's food in my teeth. Which is sort of how I live anyway.
I was on set yesterday, and our main talent he's the only guy on camera, and his collar was like bent underneath. And I walked up.
No.
We didn't have a wardrobe person. We had no finals, nothing. So I walked up and I just like casually like fixed it and zipped it up and walked away. He goes, I could really use someone like you on set. I feel like half my videos I'm like that. I'm like, well, I don't know if it's just me, but maybe just someone that's looking at me.
Someone to see you.
Someone that cares about the visuals. I don't know what to say.
Any final thoughts about my chat with Caitlin?
It made me feel like I'm doing okay.
Oh, that's nice.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm doing it.
Why is that? What did she say that made you feel like that, Emily?
Oh, I think just on her journey, speaking about how things happen on her journey and being like, yeah, that's happened on my journey. Oh, yeah. I'm not alone. Okay. Yeah, it really helped.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Winnie? Any final thoughts?
Basically the same thing. Like, I'm doing okay. I'm going to echo what Emily said because, like, I remember one TIFF, I brought in a director who was really nervous about taking pictures. And as soon as we got into our photo studio, he was at such ease because Caitlin just made him feel so like beautiful and everything. And he didn't have that weird feeling anymore. And then he still talks about it to this day.
She also does photos for Working Moms, the show they do in Canada. And if you see any of those shots, they're all like, again, they just capture like a heart of people that is extraordinary. Speaking of extraordinary, what are you guys working on that's extraordinary these days? Give yourself a little shout out. Emily, what are you doing these days?
Well, this is something that I did a while ago, but it's running a lot and I'm getting so many texts about it. It's a Lay's commercial. And I have a bunch of other commercials running, but this one, people are like, oh, that's him. So if you see it, yes, that's me. That is me.
Well, it is Lay's, just the royalty of chips.
That's true. That's true.
Winnie, what about you? What's coming up for you?
Just a bunch of things that I'm developing finally. Yay. Like exercising that creative part of my brain, and stay tuned for the next after show.
I like it. AJ?
I have the finished locked cut of my short film that I directed in September. So we're now into full animation and sound design.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Can't wait. And I've got, we have a little bit of a development work with this company that we're developing a show, Matt and I. So that's kind of keeping our brains going. It kind of wakes you up in the morning going, okay, what are the possibilities around where this project can go? So more on that later too. Thanks everybody. And thank you guys for tuning into the after show with the Firecracker Department. Don't forget to go to firecrackerdepartment.com and see all the different departments and what they're doing, and also subscribe to the newsletter, and then catch up on past podcasts at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. At Firecracker DEPT on Instagram and Twitter. Go let us know what you think and join our community. We'd love to have you there. All right, bye, Firecrackers.